Young lads these days, you seem to be getting taller and taller. I remember in school there were guys 4 or 5 years below me that were scraping door frames as they were walking through them. And the reality is, if you're a tall guy, it can be really difficult to find stuff that fits, or looks good on you in general. Because normally, if you size up to find something that fits lengthways, it'll end up being some extra large size that's just really wide as well. With a ton of excess material, doesn't really look good. As such, I've been on the hunt for some special tips. I've been asking some of my tallest friends what they do to look good, and I'll be sharing those tips with you in this video. And to be clear, it's not a matter of just trying to look as short as possible. I think if you're pretty tall, it's a good advantage to have. It's just a matter of trying to embrace it to look good so that your height isn't the only thing that people notice about you. Because chances are, you've probably got quite a lot to offer someone. Let's begin then with the first tip. This is for your basic t-shirts. I'm sure you're probably fed up of t-shirts that go and show your belly because you're too tall for them, or then you size up and get a really baggy one. Well, it might be worth trying long line t-shirts. You know, those ones that you see in street style, that normally go down towards the knee area. Now, you may not particularly like gold chains and hoodies, but the long line t-shirts are really good because they're extra long, but retain a slimmer fit through the torso and the sleeves normally. And this is brilliant if you're a taller guy because it prevents you having to size up. And often you can wear a size that's far more appropriate for your width. These are definitely worth trying out if you're a taller guy. And you may even get away with a size down from what you normally have. The second one is about your accessories, because this is a mistake that I see all the time, and that realistically you don't want to be making. Just because you're really tall doesn't mean that your accessories should automatically be huge. I've seen far too many guys wearing really big and chunky watches, for instance. And chances are, if you're a really tall guy, you're probably quite skinny as well. And what's a big chunky watch gonna do? It's gonna make your wrists look even thinner, and it could leave you looking like a bit of a stick insect. Keep your accessories in general in proportion, and make sure that if you're getting stuff like watches or bracelets, that they're not super big or baggy, so that they actually look in proportion with your frame. You don't want to be left looking like you've got incredibly thin arms and wrists. The third one is to consider custom clothing or tailoring. It seems like if you're a guy that's anywhere outside of average size, it's difficult to find stuff that fits off the rack. Especially if you're a guy with taller proportions, custom clothing could be a good option. Now, there's a couple of ways of going about this. First one is if you've got existing baggy clothing, you can go and take it to a tailor. Then you can get things taken in on the width so they fit better. Or you can go to a custom clothier and have them build items specifically for you. And those methods can definitely work. Unfortunately, as I know from personal experience, they can be very time consuming. You normally keep having to go back and forth to the place, and the cost can really add up. Today's video sponsor, Deo Veritas, offers a great alternative to these solutions that if you're a taller guy, I definitely recommend checking out, where you can not only design exactly how the shirt looks, with a variety of different patterns and accessories, but crucially, you can customize how it fits. All you need to do is enter just a few very basic measurements such as your height, waist size and weight. Or if you really wanted to, you can enter all your specific measurements. From those sizes, it'll generate your fit profile, which is an accurate recommendation as to what size of shirt will fit you best. Then when you order a shirt, it can be built to those exact specifications for you. And the great thing is, once you've nailed down that size, you can save the fit profile. Basically, once you've got your hands on a shirt that fits great, you can keep ordering shirts that'll fit exactly the same. So there's no more prattling about having to search forever to find stuff that fits. It's a brilliant service, and the shirts are really high quality as well. They even offer suits as well, and the great thing is this comes in at a cost way lower than going to a custom clothier, because they're selling directly to you, the consumer. And the reality is up front that you may have to do a little bit of tinkering with the size, but the returns are super easy, and once you've got it done, you'll never have to worry about that again. You won't have to drive, take your shirts anywhere, because you know that every time you order an item, it's just gonna fit. Brilliant if you're a guy that's not of perfectly average size. There's a link to them in the description. I'd definitely recommend checking them out. There's also a special offer down there as well for you. Check it out in the description. The fourth fashion tip for skinnier, taller guys is to experiment with different designs, and maybe even try different bold colors. This is a tip that I definitely picked up from one of my mates, because he kept saying to me that people were just saying, "Oh wow, you're so tall." So he'd rather draw their attention to something else, and as such, he's just been trying some different colors and patterns out, so that people's eyes are maybe drawn towards the clothing as opposed to just the fact that this guy is almost 7 foot tall. I'm not saying go as far as shirts like these, but generally, you've got some room to experiment. That being said, if there's one thing that I'd make sure you avoid, it's thick vertical stripes. Now, wearing really thin pinstripes like these here, that's totally fine. These are the types of stripes that from middle distance you probably can't even see. However, these thicker types of stripes are a different thing altogether. This is a technique often used by ladies to try and look slightly slimmer, and in reality, if you're a really skinny tall guy already, that probably isn't going to be what you're looking for. The lines will aesthetically elongate your figure even more. And if you're going to go for stripes at all, you're probably better off going for widthways ones. However, personally, I'd say if you're quite skinny, I'd maybe avoid that sort of pattern altogether. Tip number 6, if you're a taller guy, is to use more online brands. Now, I know the sponsor of the video is an online brand, but that's not the reason that I'm mentioning this tip. It's because if you go into most retail stores, chances are you're going to find a very limited selection of sizes, and you'll probably have to ask a customer assistant to ring round loads of stores for you anyway. Most brands, especially those that are natively based online, will tend to have a much better range of sizes to work with. Because of their infrastructure, they can kind of afford to stock more types of sizes, whereas retail stores are only really prioritized with the ones that they're going to sell the most of. That's why you'll find tons of medium-sized shirts everywhere. My pet hate is with jeans. I even struggle with this one. It's not the waist that's the issue, it's the length. Because you might find something that fits on the waist, but if you've got longer legs, it'll be miles off when it comes to the trouser leg. Whereas in many online stores, you just have more choices. I know there is some frustration with the fact that you have to send stuff back sometimes, but I'd say it's better than the frustration of a whole day wasted shopping where you find nothing that fits. Tip number 7 is contrast blocking, which is basically contrasting colours for the top half of the outfit compared to the bottom half. Essentially, lots of shorter guys will tend to use a technique called monochroming, where they wear colours that are very similar from the top all the way down to the shoes. This is almost like an optical illusion in an effect to try and make them look taller, because the eye struggles to identify where stuff kind of stops and starts. However, if you're a taller guy, the opposite can be useful, and it can often look really good. This essentially involves wearing a lighter colour on one area and then a darker contrasting colour on the other area. You can choose which goes where, but this will help to break up your body somewhat and can give other people's eyes a much more clear indication of where your torso is, where your legs are, and it won't leave people thinking that you're even taller. It also means you can play around with lots of colours as well, so it works well with the previous tips. And the 8th and final tip for tall guys is to do with your shoes, and specifically the shape of them. Loads of guys like to go for shoes that are quite pointed these days, almost like winkle pickers, where they've got a really extended toe box and then they end quite sharply. If you're a taller guy, it might be worth trying some that have got a slightly more rounded toe. I'm not saying go for shoes that look like sledgehammers, because those will just leave you looking like you're going hiking Everest. But something that's relatively rounded with a slightly shorter toe box, these can work well because the really pointy long ones, they can add to your height. From a medium distance when standing square onto someone, there'll technically be more of a distance between the top of their head and the very bottom of the shoe. Having a slightly shorter toe box will make you look slightly less tall. So that's some of my best tips for taller guys. This has been one of my most requested videos, so I'm glad to finally get it out. Cheers to Deo Veritas for partnering with me on this video. It's definitely a really useful resource. If you found this video useful, press the like button, subscribe for more videos like this one, and I'll see you in the next one, boys.